Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Thursday, March the 26th. Race number 8 at Oaklawn Park. Nice 6-furlong optional claimer. Our race of the day coverage is brought to you by the Ontario HBPA and the OwnAThoroughbred.ca initiative. Make 2020 your year for excitement. Visit OwnAThoroughbred.ca for current ownership opportunities. Call the HBPA of Ontario's ownership specialist, Stacey Roberts, for more information, or visit OwnAThoroughbred.ca. Let's meet the field for the Thursday race of the day. Remember, you can download free Formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us. Interesting race, Mike. We've got a couple of sharp horses that are expected to be on the lead. Timeform US projects the 8 Candy Cornell, the 9-7 Nation Army, 2 horses in good form to be up close to the pace. And to be honest, I agree completely with this pace projector. I think those 2 horses might very well be the horses to catch and beat.
Yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with it either, Dan. I mean, I don't think either one of them are necessarily, true front-running kind of horses, but they both have speed. I think they'll both be forward in here. And really, the horses down towards the inside with speed just seem like horses who would be content to take up a tracking spot.
Battle Station, the number 1, when he was a younger horse in New York, he had a good amount of speed. He was a stakes winner against New York breds, but it just seems like as he's gotten older, he's sort of regressed, I guess is perhaps the right word, into a mid-pack or late-running style. This horse was 3rd last time out with an even performance, but I think at this point in his career, he might have already reached his peak as sort of a low 80s Beyer horse. The Beyer par for this level is 90. I think he just is the kind of horse that needs the right trip.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff, Dan. I mean, I think if he could somehow find his way into position when this field comes into the stretch, he could actually win this race, and he's probably going to be a good price as well. But he has just lost all of his early speed as he's become an older horse. And if you go back and watch any of his last 3 races where he's been beaten by horses who are also back in this field again, he just cannot keep up early. He tries all the way, keeps racing on all the way to the finish, but he cannot get himself into position.
He's a New York bred. The number 2 Surefire Friend is an Iowa bred. And this is a horse that's coming off a little bit of a layoff. It is worth noting that he came off a bit of a layoff in 2019. He won first time off of the bat. His most recent race actually was his career best Beyer, yet that race pales in comparison to some of the main contenders in here. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs well fresh, but I think he needs to improve a bit.
Agreed. I mean, he's going to be a big price in this race, so I'm not going to knock him. And if anybody wants to take a shot with him, I don't think he's totally impossible in here, but there are things working against him, with the layoff, and he is stepping up in class for this.
Augie found the cure for his second-itis last time out. We're going to go back to earlier in the month and a now winners of 3 life allowance race. Augie, 12 times second coming into this race, is going to come with a run and win this one. I thought it was a decent performance for Augie, but I think he is facing a much tougher field.
I agree that this is a tougher race. I like this win from him, Dan, because you just see how sharply he had to alter course there in the stretch, and he's still game to prevail. And you're right, he's just one of those horses who, the through line for his career so far is that he just often settles for second or third, and he doesn't win very often. How much do you trust him to win back-to-back races now?
Silver Ride is up next. Interesting that he was actually 3rd in a week edition of the Vosburg in 2018, then ended up being stakes place. He's been a solid horse throughout his whole career for Robertino Diodoro. Last time out, kind of wet track, and I wonder if maybe that's not his game. 2 starts back in the King Cotton, he only finished a little bit behind Whitmore, who's one of the better sprinters in the country. So on his best day, Silver Ride can win a race like this, no doubt about it.
I agree. I mean, I would argue that if everybody here shows up and runs their very best race, that Silver Ride has the best race available, and he would probably win. I thought he ran really well when he won that race 3 back. That was a muddy track. His King Cotton was fine. I actually felt like he ran okay last time too, Dan. Tried to make a big 5-wide run to the stretch. He just couldn't quite get there. I thought he ran fine in that race. In a lot of ways, I think he's the horse to beat in here.
Our next few horses are making their 3rd start of the form cycle. We'll begin with the 5, King of the Court, who came back running first start back, just missed, then improved from a Beyer standpoint last time out. That being said, even though you could argue he's rounding into his best form, and he does have back races that make him somewhat competitive, his last couple of races have been against starter allowance competition. This is a very salty optional claimer.
It does feel to me like he's facing a tougher field here too. And you're right, he has some figures on the go back from last summer and spring that suggest maybe he could contend with horses like this. I just felt like this was a really tough spot for him.
Real interesting Shippen is up next. That's the 6th, 12th labor for Dallas Stewart. Beaten favorite in his 2 starts this year at the fairgrounds. I thought he faced some pretty decent competition, though. Last time out, he finished ahead of a horse that came back to win on the turf with an 84 Beyer, but a horse that's equally adept on dirt and turf and has now won 3 out of his last 4 starts. I think 12th labor is coming into this race the right way for Stewart, and I think he has enough tactical speed to stay close to the pace. Don't love the fact that he's been beaten at short prices, but he's faced good horses, most notably Mucho last year at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he was pretty good, like one of those sort of progressive 3-year-olds last year. Just felt like he kept getting better. I sort of understand why Stewart took a shot in that grade 1 at Saratoga. He was never going to win that race, but I'll tell you what, he spent almost the entire race on a dead rail. And he's come back with 2 starts this year where I think he ran fine, Dan. He got wired last time, but he never stopped trying through the end of that race. And his first start off the layoff was good, too. I think this horse is interesting in this race.
The number 7 is Strolling, and this horse just got the setup last time out. He dropped into a condition claiming race. It was a really nice spot for this horse, and it was a really nice pace setup. Let's watch Strolling roll on home under Jermaine Bridgemahan at 7-1 on February the 28th. Again, a nice performance, but I think the pace really made all of the difference. So now he's stepping back up in class, and he may not get this setup.
Right. I mean, this is a way tougher field that he's running in here. I liked this win from him. He just traveled strongly from off the pace the entire way. I mean, the horse that he ran down was clear all through the stretch. This is the only horse who made a move at him. I thought he ran well, Dan, but this is a tough spot to be last against this kind of field because he's going to have to pass some good horses to win this race.
Candy Cornell comes into this race off a couple of 90 Beyers. I think it's worth noting as we watch his most recent win, last time out, now winners of one other than, that the race was contested over a muddy track. Candy Cornell came into this race 1 for 16, although we faced some tough competition in Southern California, and Diodoro can turn a horse around. We see him on the outside wearing down this field. Do you think the mud moved him up, or is he just reaching his potential as a 5-year-old?
Yeah, I don't know if the wet track moved him up or not. Maybe it did. It's certainly something to consider. And I think he looked, as well as I thought he ran in that race, Dan, and he won clear at the end. I wasn't, blown away by his performance. I'm not going to knock him. He's run well on all 3 starts for Diodoro. Maybe he's the horse to beat in this race. But I feel like there are horses who have a real chance to take this horse down.
7 Nation Army's up next. This horse ran 1 fig, really. That's a better than par for this level. It was a 100 Beyer against starter allowance horses in April of 2019 at Oaklawn. He's been solid enough since. We'll watch his most recent race where he finishes ahead of 2 next out winners. It looked like he was traveling well on the outside with 7 Nation Army, and he gets a look at it in the stretch. He's no match for this horse to his outside. He is second best. Again, a couple of horses came out of this race to win. He should be sitting off Candy Cornell with a similar trip here.
Yeah, I feel like he did run fine last time, Dan. He had a shot at that race. I feel like even the race 2 back off the layoff, sort of a similar situation. He got a good trip track in the pace, had his shot at it, wasn't quite good enough to get it done. That makes me feel like in a race like this, he's going to have to do better. But 3rd off the layoff, maybe he can take a step forward. He does have that one race from last year that suggests he can beat this field.
Glory Stars is the number 10. This is a horse that's earned a stakes placing in his career. He has not been seen, however, since late August, and you have to wonder if he's going to need a race. One thing that he does have going for him is his affinity for Oaklawn Park. He's won his last 2 races at Oaklawn, but I do wonder if this layoff is a hurdle just a little bit too.
It is. It's tough for him to come off a layoff like this against this kind of a field. But you're right that he does have competitive form. He does like this racetrack, and he's run well off of layoffs several times in the past, Dan. So if he's a big price, I wouldn't really be too keen to just leave him completely out.
No, I agree. He certainly does have back figures. It'll be interesting to see what he does off the bench. Top pick time for the Thursday race of the day. Mike, like the Invader from the fairgrounds, that's 12th labor. I'm looking for a trip just off the leaders.
Yeah, that's kind of where I envisioned him as well. I think he's run well in his first 2 starts of the year, Dan. I think he might be set to take a step forward here, and I think he might be a fair price. We'll see how they wind up betting the race. I wouldn't take too short a price on him, but I like him. And Silver Ride, to me, the other Diodoro, just feels like the horse to beat.
I'm going to give 7 Nation Army a chance. I like that time form U.S. pace projector. I think he can sit just off of Candy Cornell and attack turning into the lane, and we'll see if maybe he can take that needed step forward. I think 5 or 6 to 1's fair on the 9, 7 Nation Army. It's the Thursday DRF race of the day. It's from Oaklawn Park with an approximate post time of 4:51 Central. Good luck.